Hi guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plonk production. And I think it's time for a cuppa. A damn fine cappuccino. That is as well. How are you guys doing? Hope you're doing really, really well. It's been a long time since I've done a proper, official, traditional TFAC. And here we are. While I'm still waiting for various technical issues to sort themselves out, some of which I am in the process of trying to sort as time goes on, so to speak, I thought I'd just do some traditional TFACs just to tie you over until later on. I'm going to pick up what's in my hand right now, and it's a little bit mucky for some reason. So this is a MacBook Pro, either 2012 or 2013. It's not a Retina one, so I think it's like mid to late 2013s when they shifted over to Retina. So this is just before Retina. This is like 2012, maybe 13. I used to own a 2011 MacBook Pro way back in the day, brand new, and I got it just before they switched to Retina. The reason why I'm picking this up is at this precise moment in time, this doesn't have an operating system on it, and I can't get an operating system on it, and it's so infuriating. I don't have another Apple product, or rather, I don't have an Apple product that's modern enough that I can basically make a recovery drive, basically USB stick, in order to work on this. So now we move on to what I've gone ahead and ordered. So I've wanted for ages, and I mean ages, I've wanted a 2008 unibody MacBook aluminium. It was a one-off. It was a one-off that Apple did way back in the day, where they took their MacBook line, the unibody line, the plastic line, and put a metal covering, what's that, chassis covering over it, essentially. And I've wanted one of those for absolutely ages. Now, they used to garner quite a hefty price tag because, as I said, they're quite unique. They're quite unique in Apple's lineup, and they were actually quite rare. Not a lot of people bought them because way back in the day, you could buy a MacBook Pro for about £100 or £200 or even dollars, depending on your region, more, and you get MacBook Pro and you get better CPU, better RAM, maybe a better hard drive back in the day. So not many people bought the MacBook 2008 aluminium unibody, because, as I said, you could literally pay an extra £100 to get a MacBook Pro. They were quite pricey because back then putting metal on a laptop wasn't cheap. It's not cheap nowadays, but back then it was even more expensive than it is, or less cheap, so to speak, than it is nowadays. But metal, you know. And I've wanted one for ages. I managed to find one on eBay for 40 quid. That I don't think is bad. Now I've got a physical version of both leopard and snow leopard. Now, from what I've understood from a video I've literally just finished watching, you need a very specific version of leopard to work on the MacBook 2008. From now on, I'm going to call it that, by the way, just for ease for myself saying it. You need 10.5.5, and you need the recovery disk that originally came with the MacBook in order to do that. However, you can install, from understand, Snow Leopard straight from the disk, because it's shipped with 10.5.5, and of course Snow Leopard came out shortly afterwards, and Snow Leopard will just simply install to it. So I'm actually really looking forward to installing Snow Leopard onto this MacBook, playing around with Snow Leopard, and then what my idea is to upgrade this up until it supported operating system, which I think is Catalina. It might not be Catalina. Anyway, I'm going to upgrade it all the way up to its supported Mac OS X. Yes, not Mac OS, or even Mac OS. And then I'm going to use Open Core Patcher to try and get it up as far as I can. There is going to be a point where it is just going to shit the bed, and it's not going to be happy. But once I get it to a modern enough Mac OS X, I'm going to use it to make a recovery drive for this beast. I say beast, it's got 16 gig of RAM, it's a Core i5, so not bad in some ways. And it's got a SSD inside it. I will be putting an SSD straight into the MacBook when I get it. The SSD is just over there, got Hynix 250 gig SSD. I'll be going straight into it when it arrives, and that will improve its performance tenfold, I think, to be honest. And then once I've got this back up and running, this will then, I can then use this to maybe edit some of those OTGVs that I've got. At least I can get the footage off easier using an actual Apple product. And then we'll go from there, and I'll see if I can edit it on this. We'll see if iMovie, or even if I can find a version of Final Cut Pro, even if that works, and we'll go from there. So that's the plan in terms of the MacBook. The money that I spoke, or the way that I'm going to get the money I spoke about in one of the previous videos, is on a delay, shall we say. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's a 4-week delay, I'll say that much. So I'm just waiting for whatever it is to happen, and then I can go ahead and get the money. I do have several ideas percolating in the old grey matter of mine. Some of them is I really do want to get another drone. I sold my DJI Mini 3, and the Mini 5 Pro has literally just come out, and my For You page on YouTube is littered, I tell ya, with Mini 5 Pro reviews. I use the term littered in a jest. I'm actually really enjoying watching some of those videos, so I don't mean that to be in a derogatory, negative way necessarily, but the Mini 5 Pro is just phenomenal what DJI managed to do for that. Now it's kind of caused the UK drone laws to change as of January the 1st, which is kind of funny in a weird way. But at the same token, I mean, DJI like the Apple of drone manufacturers, so I can understand why they've got a bit of clout when it says over some laws and what have you. Unfortunately, there is a situation in the US right now, which means the Mini 5 Pro is not available for sale in the US, which really does suck for all of fellow US. Have I just changed the wideness? That looks a lot wider than it was a moment ago. You guys can tell me whether I've just changed the wideness of the view. Severe weather warning. Yeah, we know there's a severe weather warning. There's a lot of wind. A lot of wind right now. I'm trying to get my viewfinder back up. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I think that's gone wider. Don't know how I've managed that. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know if it always was wide the entirety of this video. You guys can let me know. But I'm looking at this going, is that all of a sudden wide? I've just discovered that you have more control from the watch than I thought you did. So I'm playing around with it, and maybe I just did something. Anyway, that's beside the point. So yeah, the Mini 5 Pro, they've basically taken a lot of the features from the Mavic series and the Air 3S that came out earlier this year and put them into the Mini 5 Pro. It kind of makes me question, is there a point of the Air 3S anymore? Because a lot of the features that are on that drone are now on the Mini 5 Pro, such as its advanced return to home features. They called it something fancy, but basically it's got really good low light optical avoidance. And basically what the advanced return to home allows you to do is, say you're under a bridge. Any mini drone, I should specify, or any drone actually before the Air 3S and the Mavic series that has this feature on it. If you took off from under a bridge, you'd take the drone up, you'd fly out, and if you wanted to return from home, the drone would then come over the bridge and try and land on top of you or on top of its home point. Whereas with the Mini 5 and any drone that has this advanced return to home feature, it will come in, go down, and then go back under the bridge and land. That is phenomenal. There's actually a video, I say it's a promotional video from DJI, but it's a video of somebody flying the Air 3S outside their like bedroom window in a built-up suburban area, going for a fly with the drone, and then using the return to home feature for it to return through their window and then land happily back on their desk. And now that feature is available in the Mini 5 Pro, which is that's just mind-blowing. You can literally be sat in your own house and you don't have to go and, as long as nothing goes wrong, you don't have to go and retrieve the drone. It will make its way back to you through a window and just land. That's really cool. I've just spent the last, how long, gushing about the Mini 5 Pro, but there are many other things that are on my mind. I did consider what's called a Polymega, which is a console that came out 5, maybe 6, 7 years ago now. And basically, there's a base unit that has a disk drive, and there are modules that you can then connect to it. The whole idea of the Polymega is to play nearly any retro game. So the base unit with just the disk drive can play, I think, like PlayStation 1 games, Sega CD games, Neo Geo CD games. I don't know if it can play Dreamcast games, but it can play a bunch of CD-based games. And then each of the modules, there's a module for the Nintendo Entertainment System, there's one for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, N64, the PC Engine, I've forgotten what it's called in other countries, but the PC Engine, and there's another one that they've released that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But there's a bunch of modules you can connect up to it, and it plays them all really well. And each module comes with its own controller that is fashioned after the original console. And the wireless controller that comes with the base unit works on a Myriad. It's universal enough that it works on a Myriad. I think, and I don't quote me on this one, I think it works on FPGA. However, I remember watching, is it Modern Vintage Gamer? I've forgotten his name right now. The Australian. The Australian does quite a few kind of very technical videos on some of these, modern retro consoles, if you know what I mean. So when the Kickstarter for Polymega came out way back when, I do remember this quite vividly, they were advertising that it was FPGA. Then when the actual Polymega came out, it doesn't I don't think it has FPGA, but they did say that they are planning on releasing that in the future, and each of its systems that it uses are called cores. Cores is a very FPGA thing, essentially. So when you have an FPGA device, any system you put on it, they call it a core because of how FPGA works. I'm not going to explain in this video how FPGA works. Please find another video. I'll do it a massive injustice. It's a really complicated, really cool thing that you can do. Basically, very, very, very TLDR, very basic. It allows you to emulate hardware using software in a much more one-to-one way. All of the analog systems, from the analog NT, the analog Pocket, the analog, is that analog Neo? All of the analog systems that have come out over the last how many years are all FPGA systems and play the systems that they play phenomenally. But they're very expensive because not only because of the FPGA, because of the construction of how they're made, but the FPGA. FPGA is not cheap to program. So They're quite expensive, and the Polymedic's not cheap either. It's like £600 if I wanted to go for the deluxe bundle that I wanted to go for. It comes with 4 of the extra modules, the base unit, all the controllers, all that kind of stuff. And I really want to get the light gun. There's a light gun that's just come out for it. The only issue with the Polymega is I've gone into a subreddit and people are saying if you order it now, expect it to turn up in a year's time, because Polymega have never stuck to their delivery estimates. And it's already, I'm waiting for something that's going to take 4 weeks to arrive, and it's already, what's the word, painful to wait for that. I don't think I could wait a whole year for an item that I've paid for to arrive. So that's where I'm at with that as it currently stands. So that's the idea of that. I did consider an FPV drone of some description. Don't know if I'm going to go with that. It's got a few things sort of percolating in the mind on that one. And yes, I will be getting a more modern laptop of some description, would be a MacBook or something. Excuse me. That's the main thing I want to get with any of this money that I'm getting as a laptop. These are just some extras that I've thought of to buy the rest of the money. I also really want to get the most recent 2 books released by Tune and Fairweather, which is Grace Given, which is a massive dive into the Elden Ring lore, and Grant Us Eyes, which is a dive into the art of Bloodborne, which is one of my favourite games. Right, I think that's updated you guys on some things that are going on right now. I'm waiting in for 2 packages today, an iPad for my housemate, and some books for myself, some Ian Ranking books. I've really wanted to read the Complaint series, or the Malcolm Fox series, as it's now called, and I managed to find someone on, was it Gumtree? Or it was Gumtree. I think it was Gumtree actually, or maybe Facebook Marketplace. They was wanting to ship some books. They've got a collection of both Rebus and Malcolm Fox books by Ian Ranking. I know Ian Ranking has literally just released a new Rebus book, which I might read actually. But yeah, there's 2 or 3 Malcolm Fox books in there, and the rest are Rebus books. I think actually one of them is a copy, not a duplicate for me, Exit Music, because I've already got Exit Music. So I bought this nice little collector's set that has 3 Rebus books. I have the very first book, a book from like in the middle of his time, and then what was supposed to be the last ever Rebus novel called Exit Music, but then Ian Ranking brought Rebus back, so that's kind of a moot point now. But Exit Music was supposed to be, and that was like a 20th or 25th anniversary little set that Ian Ranking, or the publisher, released to sort of celebrate Rebus, and that's why it has the very first Rebus novel, kind of middle of his career, and then the last, at the time, last Rebus novel, because it's sort of a, you know, a contrast between the 3. So Exit Music might be a dupe, but it is what it is at the end of the day. I've got three of the second June book. So, you know, it happens sometimes when you buy in bulk, which is cheaper to buy in bulk than it is to buy individually. I'm sure anybody knows that. You do sometimes end up with duplicates. It just is what it is. Anyway, until next time, guys, please take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.